Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's first law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
As you all know, we are covering The Blade itself, the first book in the original trilogy, and today we'll be covering the last chapter, the tools we have, and a conclusive review of The Blade itself on this episode, spoiler-free. So, let's get started. Want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us on this little journey. As Harrison just mentioned a few moments ago, we are finishing The Blade itself today.
Yay!
Woo! Woo, woo. That's nice. Gentlemen, we should be proud for seeing this passion project through, this little hobby of ours.
How long have we been doing it now?
We started June 10th. We dropped.
What
yes,
did we
nearly
drop?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, nearly 3 months.
More than 3 months from all the editing and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Right. I can't tell if we're doing a great job or if we're slow as shit, but whatever. As well, everyone, just please, just to, remind you all, if you don't mind, to follow us on the social medias and the YouTubes, all that jazz, right? Should we move on?
Yeah, we'll go straight to the meme of the week.
Yes, best meme of the week.
And we've got, would you believe it or not, guys, it's Tam Elbor again.
Of course.
Damn,
he's back. Who is, I think, about a third of our memes of the week. So
he's a god.
Yeah, a god among the meme makers. And it's and then that bloody 9 guy said he just wanted to be a better man, and it's a gif of Hank Hill laughing from Goodfellas. So,
which is great.
Which is a good one. So thanks again, Tam Elbor, and we'll see you soon.
Mm-hmm. And I especially like this meme just because it relates to our previous episode where we finally covered the first Bloody 9 appearance.
Yeah.
So that was great. All right, so let's move on to our first, but also last chapter read-through. And it's the tools we have. So this chapter begins with Glokta, and he's waiting to be let into a common room of a house. Turns out that it's the house where Artie lives. And her brother, as we all know who that is, Major West, has left for England. So, the maid, after he hears some raised voices behind the door, the maid lets him in, and she looks scared and guilty, because that's just the effect Glokta has on people. And he walks in, and he wasn't so sure what to expect from Artie, but he was surprised by the bruises. And then he put some things together from his last meeting with Major West, and he's like, but he doesn't mention them.
Yeah, and this is like a big moment for Glokta. Then it's like, oh shit, that West is a bit of an asshole, but he doesn't pass judgment. So
right, he tries not to pass judgment because Glokta does torture people for a living.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like kind of in his head. He's all like, well, that must have been West's fault. He was like, ooh, that's not good. He was like, but I also torture people for a living. Whatever.
It's like, I can
each
see
their
it.
own. That's whatever.
Each their own. Goofball. So Artie starts off, she's confrontational at first. She thrusts her face out, like daring him to say something about the bruises. And Glokta tries to take steps to cut the tension. You guys want to talk about like this little interaction here? Or not?
Wait, I was waiting for you.
What was waiting for you?
Oh god, that was just that was a Canadian standoff there. That's what we call that. Way too polite people. Yeah, no, I like this. I like how he doesn't say anything. He's just like, I'm just he obviously knows what's going on. He's not going to mention it, so he's just like,
mm-hmm.
And he says, well, she basically accuses him of trying to control her. He's been sent by West to, make sure he doesn't fuck the wrong man and that.
Mm-hmm.
But Glokta's just like, nah, I don't care. Fuck who you want. Just make sure you know what you're doing before you do it.
Right.
I like how on this scene, he's all like waiting for her to, making sure it's like he's looking at her like kind of like a caged tiger, and he's like a little cautious, but he's also not, backing down from her. or anything. He's just kind of in this weird spot where he feels slightly uncomfortable because she's so like bold. Like he could tell that she is emotionally intelligent enough to be reading him the way he is reading her, and it makes him a little put off. But also, he's not going to fall into that trap. So they both kind of bait each other at the same time. It feels like a little conversation of two very intelligent people talking to each other, and then them both having a slight tension. Because he's all like, no, I don't really care what you do, and she's like, already to attack him. Like as soon as before he even says anything, she's just like, "Well, you gonna say anything?" Basically, and he's like, "No, I don't care," and she's like, okay. Like she doesn't really believe him.
I like how at first she does the thing where she curses, and that normally like it rankles the men of the society. They're very like, women can't talk like that, and Glocta finds it funny, but then he goes into his like very like tropish tragic backstory. He's like, I was in the prison of the Gurkish Emperor for 2 years, so harsh language is you're gonna have to do better than harsh language. And then he does his smile that freaks everybody out, but then she smiles back at him, and he's like, oh, it's a little bit disarming. So he tries a different tact, and then that's what you guys are talking about, right? With the I don't give a shit who you fuck. And then she's like, interesting, you're right there. And then they understand that. Well, what did they say? That the clumsy types should stick
I love how she does
line.
that. She does that. Oh, I fell over, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm such a fool. I knocked half my teeth out and hacked my leg to a useless pulp." Look how clumsy we both are.
I really like that line from him too. It's like they're the kindred spirits, and they both know that somebody else did that to them, but they're not going to talk about that anymore. They're just like, he's like, it's like a measure of understanding that he shows her without bringing it up, and she appreciates that. That's why she's like thinks about it for a minute. She's like, okay,
for sure. And then she's like, oh yeah, we should stick together, I guess. And then we cut to some time later, and Glocta is now waiting outside of Archlector Salt's office, and Practical Vitari is there too, and she's chilling in a chair. More like recovering from her brush with Logan and Pharaoh.
We have a meme about that. I think it's at the top of our website as well.
I think it's our first meme.
It was one of the first ones, yeah. And so yeah, that's on the website, circleoftheworld.com.
Nice
if you guys
there.
Go to the meme of the week, you'll see Vitari not Vitari herself, but a meme of Vitari just laid out.
Yeah, she's all bruised and bandaged. It's great, right? Well,
he goes into extreme detail on how she's laid on this chair. And it's kind of funny that he goes that much into how she's sitting on this chair.
And then the secretary gets up because Glocta is called into the office. He opens the door and he walks into Salt just basically tearing Superior Goyle a new asshole for the mayhem that was caused in the previous chapter, right? Glocta's loving the whole thing because Salt is just like, how many practicals? How many? And he's like, 20. And then he's like, how many people? How many of them died? He's like, what? 7? And then he's like, how many injured? 8. He's like, 8. He's just like repeating and screaming. And he's like, and how many were there? Like, how many of the opposing party, you could say? And then Gore's like, well, in total, actually, there's 6. And he's like, I heard 2, you motherfucker.
And I love the delivery from Stephen Pacey here as well. Salt is one of the best voices in the trilogy.
For sure. The way he was getting so angry, how Pacey was bringing him to life, it reminded me of John Hurt's character from V for Vendetta, the Chancellor.
Yeah.
They need to be reminded why they need us.
This is unacceptable, Mr. Cretin.
Yeah, exactly. So had that kind of energy, and oh man, he basically took a proverbial dump on Goyle's chest. Do you guys want to talk about Salt's little dressing down of Goyle here?
No, I think it's good. I love. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you guys covered it perfectly. I just love how he is. it's like you have that manager, which we always refer to our Schlechter as like some kind of bad boss, where he is entirely reactive in the situation. He's not actually trying to teach Goyle anything. He just wants to show him how mad he is. It's like just another bad classic boss move that he's doing. Just I'm angry. Look, can't you say how angry I am? And it's comedic, but my God, even Goyle is like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's true. And then Salt sends Goyle out. He's get the fuck out of here. And Salt turns to Glokta, and Salt is still angry. He's like, "You find something funny?" Because Glokta is like trying to not smile, obviously, because he loves this. He hates Goyle. And,
yeah.
And I love that Goyle looks back at Glokta too, and is like, "You son of a bitch," even though he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he's just like, I hate that you didn't fuck up like I just fucked up. But Salt does give Glokta some shit with the whole like keys, seed. What the fuck? Why'd I listen to you? It's like, bro, you're the boss. You gave the okay for the whole play to get turned around on you just got your ass shown to you, basically.
I find it interesting that he's only like confronting him about this now.
Yeah. I mean, because I guess so much happened.
Yeah, because they like after that they went into the house of the maker, and then he came back, and he's been doing some other stuff, and now he's bringing it up.
Yeah, you're right. You would have thought like Salt would have called him to his office and been like, "What the fuck, bro?" But whatever, little time lapse, I guess there.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he does like a full 180 here as well. He's like, all you can do is apologize. Like, I had high hopes for you. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm giving you a promotion.
Yeah, I'm giving you a promotion because here, yeah, you're right. Because Salt just drops a bomb on him. He's like, all right, so the Gurkish are moving on Dagoska. The superior that was there has disappeared. And so guess who's going to replace him and keep the Dagoska out of the hands of the Gurkish? Glokta's like, me? And he's like, duh. And Glokta's so dumbfounded by this that he's repeating what Salt says to him. And at one point, Salt's like, is there a fucking echo in here?
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, again, it's just like bad boss behavior. Like he doesn't even care. His feelings and his work are combined into one. So he's just like, I'm so angry, but also I have a job for you. But God, you need to know how angry I actually am. It's like it's just so petty, bro. It's so good.
Gotta love it. He's tasked with keeping Dagoska out of the hands of the Gurkish, and he's also tasked with rooting out any traitors and conspiracies, because obviously a superior just doesn't go disappear. It doesn't disappear out of nowhere. And he's given him a piece of parchment that was signed by all the people in the closed council. Glokta will have full powers while he's in Dagoska. So there should be no red tape. Like, apparently Glokta will be like the de facto guy, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Salt also says, I'm going to send you some more practicals because I know you only have 2. And you're going to get Vitari too. And Glokta's like, oh, what the fuck? No. But Salt's like, what, you're worried because she worked for Goyle? Well, before Goyle, she worked for me. So shut up. And then
and I actually think this is one of the only examples of a mistake in the audiobook.
Because he says Sapano.
Yeah, he says Sapano instead of Sapani, and it's a bit
it's also like that in the book too.
It is like that in the book. It's a bit strange.
I was like, typo. How'd that get past the editor? Way to go.
Rules!
We got you, Joe.
Gotcha, bitch. No, I'm kidding. So Glokta obviously is stunned by all of the developments that just occurred in the last few minutes of his time in the Archlector's office, right? He gets out because he's got to catch that boat now. And then Vitari's like, so yeah, you heard the news? And he's like, yeah, I guess you're with me now. And she's like, yeah, could you help me up? I like where he helps her up, and then he notices, she is having way more trouble walking than he is. So he like speeds up on purpose, even though it hurts him a little bit.
He's so spiteful.
Yeah. I like right here too, whenever this is only like an audiobook thing, but I wonder if people, this always gets me. As soon as they show Vitari, it's like, oh, she's got a pretty distinct accent compared to a lot of the other Union people, right?
Oh, for sure.
And then Glock's just like, oh, there is a little bit of the free cities or whatever.
Like a hint.
a little whiff, right? Yeah. Even though she's like that cripple. And I just love that little aspect.
She's like me when I try to do a British accent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I feel like Pacey was like, oh yeah, they were talking like, yeah, give her an accent, and then there's a little bit of a miscommunication there. She's supposed to have a little bit of a noticeable accent, and instead she's got like this heavy, thick, like I am practical vitati. I just love that aspect of it, and then they just maintain it the entire rest of the series.
Oh, they do. I can't wait because
I think way later on, there's another character who meets her, and they're like, "Oh, she does have a little bit of an accent."
That's got to be like a running joke. I love that.
It's one of the weird accents as well because I genuinely can't identify what it is.
Yeah, it's extremely unique, and anytime she talks in the audiobooks, you know exactly who it is.
It's one thing that really reminds me of is some of the. I don't know if you guys have seen The Expanse.
No,
yes.
But some of the way some of the Belters talk in that is very reminiscent of that accent.
Beltalada.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like this weird, like the Spanish Portuguese mix, but it's like very unique. It's very weird.
Buddy, I'm Portuguese. That's not Portuguese.
I think the word is like Basque.
Oh, Basque. Okay. Yeah. That's like that southern region or is it the northern region of Spain?
Something
like that. Yeah,
so,
okay.
But it was interesting because I was looking up, trying to find like clips of people who are Basque speaking English, and there aren't any.
Yeah, they're like, what? They don't even speak Spanish.
Yeah. Joe's like, hey, just give Atari a Basque accent. He's like, okay.
He's like, what the fuck's that?
He's like, just wing it, bro. Make sure it's just a little bit of an accent. It's a super thick accent. Oh
well. And I do like how the chapter ends. It ends with, I believe, how the book starts. Or no, not the book starts, but Glocta's first chapter starts. Which is, why do I do this?
Yeah,
I think that's, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it also fits very thematically with our first episode. Why do we do this? Also fits very thematically with Joe. Like why is he writing this book series?
Yeah. He doesn't even know half the time. All right, so what do you guys want to rate that chapter, unless you have other notes about it?
I reckon I want to give this one a 5 out of 9, almost perfectly average score for the last chapter in the book. I mean, it's fairly short. We get some really good character work between Glocta and Ardy, and then Goyle and Lecter Salt's relationship, and that weird abusive situation that they're all in. But yeah, it's fairly short, and it does just set up like Glocta's story for the next book. So yeah, 5.
Okay, Harrison.
I'm also going to go right in the middle at a 4 and a knuckle.
That's my score. I like that.
Because, like, exactly the same reasons you said, George. It's pretty average. There's a little bit of good character work for Ardy and Glocta and their interaction. And then I do like his little outro monologue, kind of reminding the reader, yeah, he's changed a little bit, but he's still a cunt, And... it's entertaining on read-throughs just because you're, instead of paying attention to the dialogue, what's happening, you're actually just entertained by how Silt talks and the little stuff with Vatari. But overall, it's like you said, it's an average short. It's not a really grand ending to a book, so it's just kind of like, okay, well, that's it.
Yeah, like you guys said, average. It's short. Dialogue, the very brief dialogue between Ardy and Glocta is nice, but it's very brief. And like you said, his internal monologue, I like the detail that Glocta goes into in analyzing how hurt Vatari is. He's like, wow, bruises all over this. Wow. But other than that, but I think Joe wanted to reserve grand endings for like endings of the series, or kind of, like the trilogies maybe. I'm not sure. But, like it's the beginning of this trilogy, so it's an average ending. It's just enough to keep us in like a little bit like, ooh, what's gonna happen to Guscut now? That's about it. So yeah, 4 and a knuckle out of 9 for little old Jeffrey.
And now, for our character spot of the week, we are going with Superior Goyle. Because
Yay.
Goyle,
The little sneering worm.
yeah, Goyle is like, he's like, I love how Glocta is in a situation where he's got a bad boss and a terrible superior, literally, because the Superior Goyle, we get a little humanizing moment where he also is getting roasted by Salt. It's not Salt's little favorite pet. He also is just another employee. But instead of Goyle being like, "Oh, damn it, I hate Salt," he looks back at Glockton and is like, "You little cunt," even though Glock had nothing to do with it at all.
He's got to displace his anger at somewhere, and he sees Glocta and he's like, "Oh, that's right, I hate this fucker."
Yeah. I love seeing Goyle be like dressed down like this. It's fantastic.
It's
because obviously he's. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna go ahead. Continue.
It's like when we first. I think we've only seen him once and one other time, like when he's first introduced, and obviously he's so menacing and like creepy, and then it's just the next time you see him, he's just being screamed at by his boss. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'd like to."
yeah, that's so funny. I remember when we first met him, he was so over the top. He's like, "My travels, my exotic practicals," and then dogs, and then over here, he's getting the shit, just torn out of his soul. But funny enough, we kind of can relate because we've all been there, haven't we? We've all been yelled at by a boss unnecessarily, like dramatically so. Mm-hmm. But then again, he did fuck up on a huge level. I mean, 7 of his employees die. His direct 7, 8 are in the hospital or in hospice. And the rest are either like hiding or they're probably just reported missing and haven't been confirmed dead. You know what I mean? So he fucked up on a big scale, and he's getting his just desserts here. And he just lost his last exotic practical.
Yeah.
He's not interesting anymore.
He's not interesting. Now he has to make do with commoners.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Archlector's Salt is trying to like play these two off each other. If they're divided and they're fighting each other, then they're not going to be a threat to him. But Glockta just doesn't give a shit about Goyle.
No. He doesn't like him, but he also isn't like out to get him, unlike Goyle is.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to waste his time or his energy on a fuckhead who talks about how much he's traveled abroad and the cultures he's learned and brought back with him. Those pretentious assholes.
Yeah.
He's like the frat guy who went to college and like got his mom to pay for his startup company. Now he thinks he's hot shit.
Yeah. Goyle is like that too. He's an amalgamation of all that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
Love it. I love it. So that's our character spot for this episode. Superior fuckhead Goyle. Love it.
I'm sorry, I just like to have so good, George.
I cannot but apologize.
But sir, you should have seen the Northman. He's crazy. Oh, all right. So let's move on to our next segment, which here we're just going to do a spoiler-free review of the blade itself, like a bit of a mop-up. Right, Harrison?
Yeah, we'll do a little review here, and then we'll go into some announcements along with the community interaction segment.
Uh-huh. So you want to lead off on the blade itself?
Yeah.
We did it, guys.
The way we did it.
We did it. Yay.
So the way we're going to rate all the books is, obviously we have 9 out of 9 fingers. And I know we have 10 books, including sharp ends, but we'll figure out sharp ends later. Right now, we are actually going to place each book 1 to 9 on our scale. Well, of course, it's each going to be different, and we are allowed to move them around as we go through because us reading it this in depth, chapter by chapter with other people, it makes us have different views on different aspects of the book. So for me, I'm going to do something blasphemous, and I'm going to place this book at 1 of 9.
Oh,
Christ!
Listen, it's an amazing book, but somebody has to go there. Okay, one of the books has to go there. Period.
Oh, I know which book I'm
Get off
putting
my
number 1.
back. And sharp ends will probably go down there, not because I don't like sharp ends, but because it's not as good as the others. Barely.
Wow.
And I think that really does go to show like how passionate we are about this book, that we would spend, nearly 2.5 months
Mhm.
reviewing the worst book in the series because we can't skip it,
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that it's the worst book, but it's still one of the best books that we've ever read is amazing.
I mean, personally, I will put The Raid itself at number 2 because I do think there is one that is slightly worse than this one. But
You think you're better than me?
Well, I'm better than both of you. I'm putting it at 3.
Three.
Oh.
I have 2 that I'm not the biggest fans of. Well, you know what? Like you surprised me earlier when you were like, we can move it around. So I'm holding on to Blade itself possibly being moved around, but it's the third. Wait, we're doing it by like the third finger is the third worst, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Third. 3 fingers.
Okay.
Third.
Okay.
How do you guys? How do you? That's fair, Jeff. I suppose. And where would you guys? How do you guys feel about the book overall? First time reading through, second time reading through. If it was just the Blade itself, right? Not knowing everything that comes after, and then later on knowing everything that comes after. How do you feel about the book overall? Like if you were picking it up first time or the second time,
Right.
just this book alone, how would you feel?
George,
I think
you want to go first?
Sure.
Go first.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because it's clear that Joe is really finding his voice at this point. Like this is his first book. He spent, a little bit about the history and the background. He spent nearly 10 years writing this trilogy back in the 90s, early 2000s, and I think you can really see like the care that's put into setting up things later on. But the book on its own is, it's good. It's well written. There's loads of funny bits. There's loads of really good action-packed bits. Just reading it on its own for the first time, I think it is a solid book. It's a solid start to the series.
Yeah, for me, reading it the first time, it's good. Like it's good that it sucked me into like the realm of the First Law, and so I was just like, the main thing that stuck out was that I basically loved all the characters, and that's obviously a testament to Joe's. Probably his greatest strength is the characterization. I did notice like clunky bits of dialogue here and there, but not enough to that it took me out of the book. And then on my rereads, my multiple rereads, I could see like, okay, this is where I can see that like this is Joe's first book, his debut novel, and yet it shows, but it's still good enough to pull people into this world. And made me excited for the next book in the series, which was Before They're Hanged.
What about you, Harrison? What do you think about it overall?
Yeah, the first time I read it just like Jeff said, it pulled me in. The characters really got me going. I did want more out of the first book, not because I was like, there needs to be more, but because I understood the setup. But let's be honest, the entire first book is just a setup book, and it's written great. You can tell that when you compare it to his later books, his writing only gets better, his pacing only gets better. And this is one of the only books that you can probably cut some stuff out, whereas the other books you don't want to cut anything out. And so in terms of writing, it's not as good, and in terms of plot, it's not as good. But this introduction to the characters, and despite it not having like any plot, and which unfortunately drives a lot of people away after they read this first book, but if they stick to it, they see that it all pays off, all of it. And rereading it feels about the same, because you notice more of the writing. Since the writing gets better as you go on, you're like, okay, this isn't as good. He should probably cut that part out. You get more critical of it naturally, but you notice that you're still engaged because he did also set up a lot of stuff, a lot of characters, a lot of foreshadowing. So for me, it's always been my quote unquote least favorite, but it hasn't gone up or down on read throughs for me, because it's so good that it compensates for its flaws, even though, in my opinion, it's the weakest book in it that he has.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's well said. Well said.
As always, Harrison, well said.
Thanks,
I like
George.
it.
George, one more quick question. How did you feel on a reread of it? After
I think it definitely goes up in estimation the second time you read it, especially and this isn't going into spoilers, but the first time you finish the last argument of Kings, I went straight back to the first book for the read through, and I'm like, oh god, yeah, I can see where this is all, how this all worked, how this all fits together, and it's 100% better on a read through.
Nice, yeah, it's good. I like that, George. Look at that. All right, well, that's our spoiler-free review of the Blade itself, I guess we could say. Let's move on to our community interaction segment. I'm not too pleased so far. Go ahead, Harrison.
This is a travesty.
So, we did round 1 for favorite non-POV characters. We already knew Artie was gonna win, and it was fun to see Frost and Severod battle back and forth for second place. But I decided, polls are fun whenever there's people have a hard time picking. Because it creates discord and conflict. And so I decided to go ahead and start doing kind of a themed as well. So this one is the Northmen. Not all of them, but this is the majority of them that are non-POV characters. So we put up Red Three Trees, Harding Grim, Tol Daru, Black Dow, Wonderful, and Weirin of Bly. So I put this up, and thank you for everybody who participated. It's still up technically right now, but there's about 405 votes. And
how many hours are left in the poll?
18 hours at this time. And
so we're petitioning you to go and vote for Black Dow.
Yeah, do it right now. Except for the fact that this episode comes out next week, and the poll won't be up by the time it comes out.
No.
So we all agree that personally we think Black Dow is our favorite non-POV character out of these people because he's so nuanced. He has so much character coming out of him, especially later on in the heroes. That even just and you reread the series and you realize that he's such a complex motherfucker and he's got a lot going on in his head. But for some reason. Thank you, everybody, for participating. But Weirin of Bly got 150 votes. Wonderful got 26 votes. Black Dow got 127. He got... What? He got 23 votes less than Weirin of Bly? Weirin of Bly is in a book and a half. He's in one chapter of Sharp Ends, and he's inside the heroes for only, what? He's got, a few chapters all around?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I get it. He's fucking charming, but guys...
This is what I mean, right? Black Dow is a lot more of a complex, like you said, character, and he's a lot more nuanced, and he's a lot more interesting. And in my opinion, Weirin of Bly is just a one-note joke.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's an idiot. He has this prophecy. He says the prophecy to everyone who can fucking everyone who will talk to him, and then he just dies.
Yeah,
and it's it's a joke, and it's it was a really good joke, and it's really tragic and climactic, but it is just a one joke.
Seriously,
but
the guy, he could swing a sword pretty well. Good for him. Yay! Clap, 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 fuckhead. And he knows he learned how to make a sandwich. Good for him. But what?
A cheese trap.
Cheese trap.
And it's like if Costco won the vote, but he'd only been inside of before they hanged. It's he's charming and fun, but there's not as much character there. There's a little bit of there's a little bit there, of course, in all of Joe's characters, but I'm just compared to Black Dow, it's what? But I guess it just goes to show that there are characters who are absolutely iconic, and Weirin of Bly is a quote unquote iconic. It was a TV show. Hopefully one day, Weirin of Bly would be way over the top popular just because of how his character is written, and so props to Joe for that. But
people are idiots.
No.
No, I'm saying it. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I just had a rough week, and I come to this shit. Fuck this. Fuck this. Black Dow is the perfect. No, that's a spoiler. You sons of bitches.
It's a spoiler.
You sons and daughters. Oh, we're in the spoiler section. Black Dow is the perfect foil for Logan, and the guy. He's funny. He's dark. He's badass. He's scared and sad deep down inside. The whole range of emotion. He unites the North. I mean, unnecessary. Obviously he betrayed Logan, but what the?
He doesn't even take the title of king. He could have. Instead, he chose protector of the North because he didn't want there to be a king. Because he didn't like the idea. Exactly. It wasn't about him. It was never about Black Dow, you guys. Exactly. Black Dow never cared about himself. He did everything for everyone else. He killed for everybody else. He was a terrible person for everybody else.
Exactly, and people choose a fuckhead named Cracknut. I'm tired of you fucking idiots, dumbasses. I hope every one of you that voted for Weird of Bly are listening
Jeff,
and hear this. No, I don't give a flying fuck. These idiots. Oh, it's my choice. It's my opinion. Fuck your subjective opinion. Objectively, Blacked Out is better. Morons, fucking morons. Good Lord.
Anyways,
Why am
we
I
love
getting
all
so
of our
worked up
fans.
about a fictional character. I don't even understand this.
Anyways, we actually really appreciate everybody for participating. Oh, now, sorry, there's one more aspect here.
I wonder who believes that.
Harding, Graham, and Three Trees also were back to back. I wasn't sure who was going to win there for third place. I also thought Wonderful had a really good chance of winning because Wonderful is pretty interesting. You think she's a certain way the entire time in the Heroes, and then you turn out she's kind of just like another North person who's out for herself, and it's kind of a good little twist for her character. But as she gets older, she seems to have a lot more like I guess care. I don't know. I like her. She's good, and she dies tragically.
Yeah, I thought Wonderful. Yeah, I thought Wonderful would have done better in the poll. I thought Harding Grimm would have done a little bit better. Tolduru, I love him, but like I think we can all agree that like if we get a POV from him, he's probably just thinking about food or something, or just like or ale.
Yeah,
I don't think there's gonna be much there.
He's one of the few one-note characters
Yeah.
in the series. But I will say there were some good comments about him basically saying how they like his character because he really changed how they viewed what happened, how they viewed the series, him dying. They really liked how he was so kind and then dying. And so definitely there is a note for that. Three Trees barely lost to Harding Grimm, which I think is fair because Three Trees is a pretty interesting person, but he also dies kind of early on, and I feel like you miss out on a lot of his backstory. And Grimm's
you get hints of it.
Yeah. George, do you have anything to say about the poll here?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised that Tolduru got that few votes, just because he's such a he's relatively wholesome for the Northman. You know what I mean? He's a big angry guy, but he's just a big softy, you know?
Yeah, he's a big teddy bear.
So yeah, but I do disagree with the way that people, you wouldn't say that it's of Tulturu's character, the way that he dies and the way that he interacts with the plot in that way. But
yeah, it's less about his character and more about how he affects the plot.
Exactly. Yeah.
But but still,
Harrison, can we rig the poll so that Blacked Out just wins anyway? Is that something we could do?
Yeah, I could just lie. Be like, actually, Blacked Out won. What are you guys talking about?
We could just lie. Just hide the results real quick on the poll on Reddit or something. Either that, or I swear to God, I'm sabotaging Weiren's next round. I'm gonna straight up fucking create thousands of fake accounts.
Well, again, it just goes to show a character or a person who is charismatic and on the surface seems to be just so cool. Is always going to win over people who have a lot more going on inside and are looking out for other people more than themselves. Okay, so
wow, you're so deep, bro.
Damn, bro. But I mean, I get Weiren winning. I thought it was a high possibility, but I really thought that Blacked Out was just going to barely win.
I thought Blacked Out was going to sweep this shit. That's what I thought.
In terms of comments, it looks like Weiren of Bly won also because people were scrolling through like, oh, I love Weiren of Bly, and click Weiren of Bly. Because a lot of these people who scroll down, they're like, what? Blacked Out? I love Blacked Out. How is he not winning? Blacked Out should be winning.
Yeah, I thought the majority of the comments were in favor of Blacked Out, and they were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I think people voted for Weiren didn't want to comment. As you know what I mean? They're like, I'm just gonna keep my opinion to myself. Well, I'm shitting on it now, so
I think this comment from Baladin Stormcurst just kind of sums it up. It's greatest general and leader who won countless battles against the Union, or one cheese trap boy with a big sword.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Whatever.
But still, it was a lot of fun to see this one. This one was more conflicting. Next week, or when this episode comes out, it'll be the Magi. I'm gonna do all the magic users that I can fit in there that don't have a POV, which is all of them. So we might have to split it up a little bit, but it should be exciting to do and see who wins. There's gonna be a conflict on one of them, so I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
what
right.
happens.
Awesome. So then that was our community interaction segment. That the results of that poll are just wrong, but whatever. We'll move on to some announcements before we hit the end of the episode.
Yeah, so we are going to be taking a short little break from the books themselves. And for the next 4 weeks, obviously, we're going to do our spoiler section because it's the end of part 2, end of the book. So we're going to do a spoiler episode. Week following, we're going to be recording and having a special interview talk about memes and the history and blah, blah, blah with Sir Spaceman from the House of the Meme Maker, who we have been talking to since we started all this. And we're pretty excited to have him on. And then the next week after that, we'll have another Redditor, the Bloody Niner. He comments a lot and stuff, and he is going to be coming on to talk about the future of the First Law series and possible stories and paths that the story could take us. And then we'll also that next week we'll be doing a special episode with another viewer of ours who is going to be talking about the female characters in the series up through Best Served Cold, which should be a different aspect that we lack. So we're excited to talk about that different aspect of the series. And then after that, we'll go back into the book series. So we're just going to break it up here, do some interactions with you all. And when we finish before they hang, we'll do the same thing. We'll get some of you guys to come on the show and talk to you guys about a certain aspect or a subject you guys want to talk about the First Law. Also, we put up a poll on Reddit to see what kind of games would be fun to live stream with us, whether it be me and George, just me or just George, Jeff, all of us together, to see what you guys would like to see us play. It looks like a role-playing game won, and not saying we want to play other games, and this isn't going to be obviously the main thing, but every now and then we might jump on a Saturday and do a fun live stream, but we're going to try to role play as some of the First Law characters. So if you guys have any ideas for which characters, just message us and let us know which characters, which games. Right now we're thinking something simple like Skyrim. That way we can do whatever the fuck we want. But that's just a little bit of announcement that we hope to do here in the near future, maybe next weekend.
Great. Awesome.
Does this mean I get to role play the Bloody Nine in Skyrim?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Okay. Alrighty.
Jeff, you need to get Skyrim.
Okay, I'll work on getting Skyrim and all that jazz.
It's not compatible though. That's the issue.
Is it not?
I don't think it is.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Yay!
Yay!
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting talking to you guys.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait.
Except those who pick Weird and Black.
Except for those, I swear to God, if you pick Weird and Black, I'm canceling the scheduled intervieos.
That'll be our first question, and you come on like, who'd you vote for on that poll?
if I just hear I'm like, you're out, get out.
Don't even listen to the podcast. Oh,
but he makes sandwiches. No, that's it. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we do another special spoiler episode.
And make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, as you know, and we've got a website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any podcast app that you use to listen to podcasts on. And please rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
They'll be back, you cretin!